Once upon a time, in a small village by the sea, there lived a fisherman named Mr. John. Every day, he joined the other villagers on fishing trips, catching enough fish to keep some for himself and selling the rest to earn his living. He lived alone, without any family, and often felt the weight of loneliness in his heart. One day, Mr. John decided to visit a neighboring village to sell his fish. As he walked along the forest path, he came across an unusual sight. A man sitting by the roadside with a tiger cub. Intrigued, Mr. John approached him and asked, "Why are you sitting here with a tiger cub?" The man, looking weary and defeated, explained, "I have no money and my family hasn't eaten in 2 days. If you give me your fish, you can take the tiger cub. I can't care for it anymore." Mr. John hesitated, but his compassion took over. He thought, maybe this tiger cub can bring some joy to my lonely life. He agreed to the trade and brought the cub home with him. When the villagers saw Mr. John with the cub, they were shocked. "What will you do with the tiger cub?" they asked. Mr. John smiled and said, "I'll raise it and tame it. It'll be my companion." Some villagers warned him, "A tiger is a wild animal. It's dangerous to keep one no matter how small it is now." But Mr. John reassured them, "Don't worry, I'll be careful. I'll train it well." He built a sturdy cage on his veranda and fed the cub fish every day. As time passed, Mr. John grew attached to the cub. He even started taking it on walks through the village. While some villagers admired his bravery, others were fearful. Despite their mixed reactions, Mr. John found a sense of purpose in caring for the cub. It filled the emptiness in his life and became his closest companion. Years went by and the cub grew into a strong, majestic tiger. Mr. John took pride in how he had tamed this wild animal. One day, he set off for the neighboring village to sell his fish, leaving the tiger in its cage. The journey through the forest and hills was tiring but familiar. At the market, Mr. John sold his fish quickly and enjoyed a cup of coffee before heading home. But on his way back, disaster struck. A massive landslide blocked the mountain road. Despite their efforts, the villagers couldn't clear the path in one day. Mr. John had no choice but to stay in the neighboring village for 5 days. When the road was finally cleared, Mr. John rushed home, eager to see his tiger. As he entered his house, he found the tiger alive but weak, sitting quietly in the corner of its cage. It hadn't eaten for days. Overcome with emotion, Mr. John opened the cage and approached the tiger with love in his eyes. But hunger had awakened the tiger's primal instincts. In a tragic moment, it attacked Mr. John, unable to suppress its wild nature. This tragic story reminds us of an important truth. Some things in life, like the instincts of a tiger, cannot be changed. Just as a tiger's wildness cannot be fully tamed, some people may temporarily hide their true nature, but it will eventually resurface under certain conditions. So, what's the lesson here? Acting out of emotion or sympathy while ignoring the rules of nature can lead to harm, whether it's a wild animal or a person with an unchanging nature. It's better to accept reality and maintain a safe distance when necessary. Today we learned new words and sentences through this story. Remember, learning English can be fun when you practice regularly. So keep listening, learning, and growing. Make sure to like, comment, and share how this story helped you improve your English. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story where we'll continue learning together.
Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're like us, you probably appreciate a story that, well, doesn't just entertain, but really delivers a hard truth efficiently.
Brutally efficient sometimes.
Exactly. Today, we're diving into a classic cautionary tale from our sources. It's called The Fisherman, the Tiger, and Nature's Rule.
A very evocative title.
It is. And our mission here is pretty specific. We want to pull out what this story really tells us about human judgment, about compassion, and maybe about the stubbornness of, well, true nature.
Yeah, it goes way beyond just animals, doesn't it? It's about risk.
Definitely. The risks we take when we think we can sort of domesticate reality itself.
Right. And look, this narrative, it feels honed,
Mm.
like it's been shaped over time, specifically to teach a lesson. A tough one.
About the limits of our control.
Precisely. A lesson about reality, about risk, that you can't really negotiate away. It applies to, I don't know, a dangerous animal, sure, but also maybe a toxic relationship or even like a volatile market.
It's a parable of risk assessment, basically.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so let's meet the protagonist. The story gives us Mr. John. He's a fisherman, lives by the sea, pretty simple life.
Routine-driven. Catch fish, sell fish.
Right. But underneath that routine, the story makes it clear he's deeply lonely. That isolation is sort of hanging over him.
A key vulnerability.
Yeah, definitely sets the stage. So one day, Mr. John heads off to a nearby village, needs to sell his fish. Standard stuff.
Until it isn't.
Right. He comes across something unexpected. A man by the side of the path, and he has a tiger cub.
And the context here is just critical for understanding what happens next. The man selling the cub isn't some slick operator.
No, the description is quite bleak, weary, defeated.
Utterly desperate. Selling the cub because his family is starving. Hasn't eaten in days.
So it's a transaction born from scarcity on one side.
And this profound emotional need, this loneliness on Mr. John's side.
And Mr. John, he's just pulled right in. He sees this little creature, maybe vulnerable, and his heart just takes over.
Logic goes out the window?
Completely. He thinks, maybe this cub, maybe it can bring some joy into my life.
That specific thought is mentioned. It's loneliness seeking an answer.
So he makes the trade. His fish, his livelihood, essentially, for this cub, for hope.
It's pure emotion driving the decision. He's basically buying companionship, or the possibility of it.
At the potential cost.
Catastrophic. He's choosing this fragile hope over, well, common sense and safety. But he doesn't see it that way yet. The community does, though, instantly.
Oh, yeah. The moment he gets back to his village with this cub, it's like an alarm goes off. People are shocked.
And they don't mince words.
No. They tell him straight, a tiger is a wild animal. It's dangerous. Doesn't matter how small it is now.
That's the crucial warning, isn't it? The statement of fundamental reality.
But Mr. John, he brushes it off.
This is the pivotal mistake, really. He hears the warning, the external audit, as you called it earlier.
And dismisses it. He actually reassures them. Says something like, oh, I'll raise it, I'll tame it, it'll be my companion.
And right there, that sets up the whole story's tension. Nature versus nurture. Or maybe nature versus wishful thinking.
He genuinely believes his care, his love, can override millions of years of instinct.
He's not just ignoring the danger. He's fundamentally rejecting the idea that some things are outside his personal control. His will versus primal code.
A dangerous bet.
The most dangerous, and for a while, it actually looks like he might win that bet.
Yeah, the story moves forward. Years pass. Mr. John is meticulous. He builds a strong cage right there on his veranda.
Solid cage. And every day, without fail, he feeds the cub fish. Good fish.
He's providing, caring, and this routine, it works. On one level.
Attachment grows.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He finds purpose in this character. The tiger gets bigger, healthier.
And it does become his companion. It fills that void, that loneliness we talked about.
But here's the psychological trap, isn't it? He starts to confuse the suppression of the tiger's nature with its erasure.
He mistakes the calm condition for the fundamental character.
Exactly. It's like confirmation bias playing out in real time. Every day, the tiger doesn't maul him, confirms his belief. See? I tamed it.
And those initial warnings from the villagers, they just fade away. Irrelevant noise now.
Success breeds blindness, as they say. He gets so confident.
Dangerously confident.
So confident he starts taking the tiger, now fully grown, mind you, for walks, through the village.
Wow. That's bold.
That's the absolute peak of his illusion of control. Taking pride, the story says, in how he tamed this wild animal.
It's also touching on something like the sunk cost fallacy, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Years of effort, emotional investment, daily routine. His identity is now tied up in being the guy who tamed the tiger.
To admit defeat, to admit it's still dangerous.
Would mean admitting his whole purpose, his companion, was built on, well, a time bomb. It's too much to face.
And he doubles down on the belief, focuses on the pride, the taming, ignores the underlying reality.
He saw the conditional state. If I feed it, if I care for it, then it's docile.
But he ignored the fundamental state. It is a tiger.
And that difference, that gap between the conditional and the fundamental, that's everything. That's the whole point.
And like you said, reality always finds a way to test the foundations. The stress test is coming.
Always is. So the setup for the fall is quite mundane, actually. Mr. John goes on a routine trip, neighboring village, sell fish.
Leaves the tiger caged, expects to be back same day. Business as usual.
But the disruption, the stressor, it doesn't come from inside the cage this time. It's external.
A landslide. Massive one. Blocks the only road back.
Totally unexpected. An act of nature, ironically. Not a failure of his routine, but something bigger.
And this external event forces a break in the carefully constructed conditions he can't get back.
Not for 1 day or 2, 5 full days. He's stuck.
5 days, okay. For a large predator.
5 days without food. Think about what that means biologically. It's not just time passing. It's the systematic removal of the one thing suppressing the instinct.
The feeding routine, the care, the conditioning, it's all gone for 5 days.
It's the ultimate stressor for this system he built. All that nurture, all that conditioning, suddenly pitted against raw, primal need.
Hunger.
The most basic drive. And when you put any system under that kind of extreme pressure, whether it's an animal, a person, an economy, it tends to revert.
Revert to its baseline, its core programming.
Exactly. The starvation just wipes away the learned behavior, the conditioning, and reveals the unchangeable code underneath. The tiger's true nature.
So the road finally clears. Mr. John, understandably, is frantic. Races home.
Finds the tiger. It's weak but alive. And in that moment, seeing it alive, relief washes over him.
Emotion takes over again, just like when he first bought the cub.
He sees the weakness, feels pity, compassion, caution. The danger is forgotten in the relief.
And he opens the cage.
Opens the cage. Approaches the tiger, the story says, with love in his eyes. Just pure emotion.
But the tiger isn't operating on emotion anymore.
Not at all. 5 days of hunger have flipped a switch. It doesn't see its owner, its companion. It sees relief from starvation.
An answer to that primal imperative.
And it attacks. Despite all the years, all the fish, all the walks, the hunger awakens the instinct.
Yeah.
And it can't be suppressed any longer.
The conditioning failed the stress test. The underlying nature came through.
Brutally.
Yeah.
Tragically. But, according to the story's logic, inevitably.
Okay. Wow. That's a harsh ending. Let's unpack that. Beyond the obvious, don't keep pet tigers, what's the core truth here? What's the lesson this structure is built to deliver?
Well, the source material itself spells it out pretty clearly. It offers a couple of key takeaways meant as general rules, really.
Okay, it's the first.
First, that some things like a tiger's core instincts, or maybe it implies the fundamental character of certain people, simply cannot be changed.
You can manage them, suppress them.
Temporarily, under ideal conditions.
Yeah.
But you can't fundamentally alter what they are.
And the second point, it relates to the crisis, right? The landslide.
Exactly. It warns that this true nature, whatever it is, will eventually resurface. It comes out under pressure, under stress.
The stress test reveals the original programming.
That's the core insight. Mr. John's downfall wasn't just bad luck. It was the direct result of acting purely from emotion, sympathy, loneliness, while ignoring fundamental rules. A failure of risk assessment.
He let his desire, his hope, override his judgment about a known baseline danger.
He confused tamed with transformed. And nature doesn't really do transformations like that.
So if we broaden this out, thinking about life, work, relationships,
Well,
the lesson is about understanding foundational realities, things you just can't negotiate with.
that seems to be the practical advice, yes. It suggests it's better, safer, wiser perhaps, to accept reality for what it is.
Maintain a necessary distance sometimes.
When dealing with something fundamentally wild or volatile, or maybe just unchangeable, instead of trying to tame it against its nature, focus on managing the real risks, not ignoring them for the sake of hope.
It's a tough lesson. It implies that sometimes maybe the kindest act even to yourself is recognizing an insurmountable danger and stepping back.
And that hope, if you misplace it, if you pour it into changing the unchangeable, it can be incredibly dangerous. Lethal in this story.
That initial loneliness, it was the vulnerability the tiger's nature eventually instinctively exploited.
And yeah, it wasn't malice from the tiger's perspective, just nature running its course once the artificial constraints were removed. Predictable, delayed, but not ultimately preventable given the setup.
So wrapping up this deep dive on the fisherman, the tiger, and nature's rule, Mr. John definitely found purpose, companionship even, but the fatal error was mistaking that routine, that attachment, for actual control over nature itself.
He saw the scaffolding he'd built and thought it was the bedrock foundation. A common mistake, perhaps.
This story really serves as a potent reminder, doesn't it? A guide for thinking critically about where we place trust, where we invest hope.
It really does. And it leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty sharp question to chew on. In your own life, your own world.
What are the foundational rules, the unchanging instincts? Maybe in people, maybe in systems you deal with, maybe in markets?
Yeah, what might you be overlooking right now? Or actively trying to tame out of hope, or maybe even compassion? Forgetting that the stress test, in some form, eventually comes for everything.
What happens when the landslide hits your routine? That's the thought to carry forward.
A sobering one.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.